Christianity, and particularly African Christianity, seems to have taken away the ability to critically think through everything in life, as we are all pushed to just believe and not ask questions. And we all know that the only place where you know you don't have the right to ask questions is a cult. And so wherever you go to that is called a church and that you're not allowed to ask questions, you should quickly know that you are in a cult.
Hello everyone, you have welcome to another video today, and if you are new, you're welcome to JP News Vlog.
Poverty does not die by fire, it dies by hard work or smart work. And there is no amount of money that you ever get by prayer that will make you rich, and sustainably so. We must understand that in this life, it is not lived by miracles. Life is lived by facing realities and applying the laws that are in place in order to live better. And that miracles sometimes may come when we are in extreme situations that only God can intervene. But generally, life was never meant to be lived by miracles. You can get a miracle, but that miracle is not sustainable. In that if you get healed today and you go live your life anyhow without taking care of yourself, without paying attention to basic hygiene, it is very possible that you're going to end up sick again. That is why miracles are not sustainable if you flack the laws of life. One of the things we must also understand is that Christianity, and particularly African Christianity, seems to have taken away the ability to critically think through everything in life, as we are all pushed to just believe and not ask questions. And we all know that the only place where you know you don't have the right to ask questions is a cult. And so wherever you go to that is called a church and that you're not allowed to ask questions, you should quickly know that you are in a cult. And it is this attitude of pushing people to just believe without asking questions that have given charlatans and false prophets to have avenues on the pulpit to say whatever they want to say. This is the very reason why most of the people who are pastors today are very unschooled people. Most of them were school dropouts. Most of them never had the opportunity of even studying theology in the first place. And they are parading in all over the place with all manner of teachings. And because people too are unschooled and they are pushed to just believe without questioning, we get to absorb just whatever is being said. How will you imagine that somebody tells his congregant to drink fuel as a means of getting healed? How will you explain the fact that believers are asked to eat grass as a way of getting a miracle from God? How will you explain that somebody stands in church and picks up his phone and says he's calling God and that God has spoken and he's speaking on the other side of the phone, and yet there are people who believe? It is because supposed Christians have successfully been made to act like zombies. Everything that a supposed pastor says, they must hear, believe and follow without questioning. And anytime you tend to question anything a supposed man of God says, you are seen as a rebel or you are labeled as someone who is fighting the church. We've heard stories how families have been divided because supposed prophecies have been given. We've heard stories how people's lives have been ruined because a pastor just stands somewhere and claimed to be speaking by prophecy and then destroyed somebody's life. And the question is, in Africa, how long are we going to keep living like this in the guise of being Christian? Somebody once says that Christianity came to rule as politics when it came to that Christianity in Rome was religion. When it came to the West, it was politics. But when it got into Africa, it became business. And that is why literally in church, everything is sellable. From selling handkerchief to selling oil to selling water to selling towels they call mantles. Everything. In fact, the church has become a marketplace. And this reminds me of what Jesus did when he came into the temple and saw people buying and selling. He had to scatter them and send them out. And he said one thing: my Father's house was meant to be a house of prayer, not a house for robbers. Meaning that anybody who is buying and selling in church is a robber. It's literally a thief. Today, the purpose for which Jesus came have been relegated to the corner, and what makes the pastor rich is what's important. For example, you hear today somebody will tell you if you do not pay tithe, you will go to hell. How do we equate the blood of Jesus with money? In fact, in heaven, God does not use money and God does not need money. And the reason for which people do this is because they want to corner people to a position where they are overwhelmed by fear and then they tend to give out of fear, not because they love God. Lots and lots of people are in church today not because they care about the God of the church, but because they care about what the God of the church can give. And that is why people come to church, because they are told that when you come to church, you get blessed. And so when you come and you do not get the blessing, the next thing is that you start looking for it somewhere else. Or people come to church and give because they are told that if you give, you will get a financial miracle. In some sort, they are saying God is dealing with trade by barter. You give to God, God multiplies and gives to you in return. God is not 1xbet where you have to play and win. No. You either give to God out of love, or you give to God expecting something and you never have it, and then you end up being discouraged that God does not care. And one of the things we've been cornered to believe is that givers never lack. That is a lie. Givers lack, and givers have actually gone broke because of giving. And we've also been told that when you give in church, you will prosper. There is nobody on the face of the earth that has prospered by giving. Haven't you observed that most of those who preach that when you give to God you will prosper, they end up asking you to give to the man of God, and at the end of the day only the man of God prospers, while the giver never prospers. Why? Because it is always living from the people to the main man who is asking them to sow in his life. And the question I've often asked is, why is it that in all of Jesus's life, he never asked for money to make anybody prosperous, to make anybody rich? If Jesus was that anointed as God and didn't make people rich financially, materially, who is a man to think that by giving to him will make the person rich? Jesus did not have sin, remember. And we, all of us, have sins. Even pastors have sins. And then Jesus, who was that powerful, couldn't do that to anybody. That is simply about provision that God provides. And you can't live your life basically by sitting and waiting that God will provide for you. These were people who were actively at work. And Jesus came and met them and realized that they have toiled the whole night and didn't catch any fish. So to prove that he actually cares about them, he decided to perform a miracle to be able to satisfy their work that they have worked throughout the night. In fact, God does not bless a lazy man. Primarily, check everybody God blessed in the Bible. That person was found doing something and God blessed it. There's miracle money. In fact, miracle money does not exist. Money is an exchange of value, and God does not use money. God does not need money, and God does not have money in heaven. That is why every country have their own currency, and there is no currency on the face of the earth that represents God. None. And so, if God were to distribute money, why would Christians be poor? Nobody should be poor, because there are people who are fervently serving God from childhood, but they are as broke as the word broke. God does not distribute money. Money only answers to value. Arabs are the richest, and they don't pray the prayers we do. They don't go about answering amen everywhere. Well, in the Jewish communities, we have Judaism, and then we have Christianity. So we can't say all of Jewish people are Christians. Not all Jewish people are Christian. And even in the Jewish community, we have people who are still following the Mosaic law. People who are basically believing that all they need is the law of Moses. So basically, we are saying that miracle money does not exist in the context of what we know seen in church today as miracle money. The pastor prays, money appears in your pocket. If money actually appears in your pocket and you take it and use it, it means you're a thief. And if money is sent from one account to your own, and you are not genuine enough to go to the bank and investigate who made that transaction and be very much aware that the transaction was intentional and not a mistake, and you go ahead to withdraw the money and use, it means you're a thief. God does not use any bank account, and God does not distribute money as such. I know most people who are listening will quickly say, but Jesus asked Peter to go and get a coin out of the mouth of a fish. The question is, why? There was a need. And the people had challenged Jesus. And Jesus wanted to prove to them that he can do anything and that he is capable of taking care of his disciples. That is why he asked them. God comes through for men and women when there is a need. And today, the way God blesses people is if you are in a need, God will connect people to you to be a blessing to you. Not that God will command some mysterious money from somewhere to get into your account, and then you start getting you start celebrating that, oh, I have received miracle money. People will also use the fact that Jesus was able to feed 5,000 people with 2 loaves of bread, with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes. There was a need, and because at that point in time there was no way they could buy food, that miracle was necessary. Miracles are meant to meet need, not for show. So when you see people start advertising miracles, there is a high chance that they have nothing to do with God. Because God comes through when he wants to meet a need. And that is why God can actually come through to meet a need without even using a pastor. Without even using a pastor. He can touch somebody's heart to be walking here and see somebody in need and reach out to the person. That is God meeting a need. And to the person who has met that person's need, he may not know that that is a miracle for the person who have received whatever is being given. So God works miracles in different ways. And we should also understand that miracles are not exclusive to Christianity. Native doctors perform miracles. In Islam, there are miracles. In Judaism, there are miracles. In Hinduism, there are miracles. So miracles are not a proof that you're serving God. We know about all the babalawos who perform miracles. And we should also understand that prophecy is not exclusive to Christians. In my village, we have native doctors. You go there, they will tell you something about your future and it will happen. Does that make them prophet? No. But because the church today celebrate what seems to be an ambience, that is why they get to absorb all of these things. And the native doctors have realized that the church business is making more money than being in the bush. That is why they have removed their dirty clothes. They have bought suits. They have gotten a good microphone and a good sound system. They have a well-decorated stage. And business is ready to go. And for people who are so gullible, sadly, Africans are too gullible, we rush there. Because what happens within the African community is that an African man celebrates anything that is powerful. They don't care about the source of the power. As long as it's powerful, that is what they are excited about. And they are ready to go for it. So we must understand that if there is going to be a change, first, in the development of Africa, especially when it comes to the context of Christianity, there must be a change of mind. People must learn to think critically. Sadly, within the Christian community, we are not allowed to think critically. Because once you start thinking critically, you are termed a rebel. You are termed as somebody who is fighting the church. You are termed as somebody who is fighting God. And the question I've often asked is, can somebody ever truly fight God? If Africa must change, if the church world in Africa must change, we must begin the change from our minds. We must begin the change from our minds, searching for truth without sentiment. Because one of the things that has destroyed Christianity is that our truth is too sentimental. It is about who speaks it and not about whether it is the truth or not. What I'm saying right now, I'm going to be dragged. And I don't care. I've been doing this for over 10 years. I'm going to be dragged. Why? Because most people don't know me. So the question will be, who are you? In African Christianity, it's not about the truth. It's about who is speaking. It's about who is speaking. If I were white, many Africans will want to accept what I'm saying so easily. But because I am a black, I'm more so unknown. Many people will not pay attention to. Or if I came here and am a man that has a church of 100,000 capacity, and what I'm saying here is many people will quickly believe what I'm saying. Not necessarily because what I'm saying is the truth. And that is the problem with African Christianity. We follow men out of sentiment, not because what they say or do is the truth. And that is reigning Christianity in Africa. That has given room for unschooled fellows to come into the church and do all manner of manipulations. The reason why most often I talk about these things is because I go to very inaccessible communities. I've been to communities where Boko Haram has affected, and I imagine the pains that takes me to go to those places to share Christ. And then somebody just pops up from nowhere and begin to manipulate these people, and they don't know what some of us go through to reach them. Simply because these people need money. Simply because they want a crowd in the church. Most often, most of the people that we call into our churches, it is not because we love the people. It's because we know that the more people we gather, the more money we make. That is why it is a business.